Good morning, grinders. Welcome to DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka blenderhd, blenderhd. You can follow me there on Twitter. This is the show where we go over yesterday's slate a little bit. It was a big game. It was big slate yesterday, and talk a little bit about today's slate. Mostly DFS strategy, right? It's 11 in the morning. We have no idea what's going on. What's the weather? Who's pitching for who sometimes? What the lineups are. So if you got questions, I got answers. So hit that thumbs up button. I see you in the YouTube chat. I got my apple juice here. It's cold. It's nice and cold, refrigerated. So hit those thumbs up buttons. Thumb. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Frederick Duke, Tim Wilkins, Matt Mears, Doug Montgomery, Tony B, Suki Singh, Brandon Neal, Chandler Cadden, Michael Dompier, right? And who has to start with the most pressing thing, because if you're into DFS, you're probably into something else also. Michael Dompier says, before we get started, you would have a link to the rebate for Bitcoin. Didn't people say it would only go up? Bitcoin could only go up, right? Nope. I don't have any Bitcoin, so I can't say anything about it. So whatever. But yeah, so maybe there'll be more people in DFS lobbies now. It's like, oh, or everyone's broke. That's what you get for putting too much into one asset. But whatever. Okay, so yesterday, pretty much if you slam the chalk, you won. Pretty much, it's a 14-game slate. If you played the two chalkiest pitchers and the chalkiest team, you won. That's just the way it is sometimes. Sometimes the best plays just all get there, right? We had yesterday, we had Turnbull pitched a no-hitter against the Mariners, but barely anyone had him. I would have played, if I played DraftKings, I would have played him as an SP2. He didn't project that badly. I mean, Turnbull was 3% owned on DraftKings with 51 points. Now I played GPPs on Fanduel, where having a cheap pitcher doesn't do you much, right? Turnbull I could have played, right? But I mean, mostly with Snell, Wheeler, Heaney, Woodruff, Urias, Lynn, because the pricing on Fanduel, it's almost playing 6K pitchers is almost unnecessary. Unless they could drastically outscore the more expensive, better pitchers, which Turnbull did yesterday against the Mariners, which apparently every 2 weeks the Mariners just get no hit, and that's just the way it is. But Snell did well, about 30 points. Wheeler did well, 30 points. Heaney got killed. Okay, so that SP2 was gone. Woodruff didn't get that many strikeouts. So he didn't get there for his price at 22% owned. Urias got there at 30 points. I mean, pretty much. I mean, other than like Heaney and Woodruff, which were the two pitchers I was low on, I played a lot of Wheeler on FanDuel. I played Snell also. Lynn didn't get there, I guess, 9.9, because he only had 2 strikeouts. But it's like the chalk pitching combination. And most of the sharper players played more. Squirrel Patrol went a little bit contrarian at pitcher. Played more Woodruff, Urias. Played double, 2 10K pitchers. Tyon, who didn't get there. Nope. Javier, 21.9. And on this slate, didn't do anything. But when it comes to the stacks, I mean, essentially, look, Wheeler and Snell, 37, 32% owned. And then look at the stack. Tampa Bay, number one. It was the top projected stack, and they were underpriced. You had Lowe, 17%. Choi, 17%. Arozarena, 15%. Zunino, double dong, 11, 12%. Adames at shortstop got 9 points, 9%. Brett Phillips was the key, right? We see Forsaken here, right? His winning lineup had a 0 in it. Right? 213.65. Zanino's double dog. Choi's dong. Edmonds 13. Wendell's 18 because he had like a triple. Grichuk had a dong. Meadows had a dong. Brett Phillips had a dong. I mean, look. It's a pretty chalky lineup. The difference is that playing the chalk stack but playing the 3% owned guy as part of it. Brett Phillips was the key to the Tampa Bay stack, rather than playing Wendell at shortstop instead of playing Adames. And Wendell was still 7% owned. We look at Giant Squid underneath here. This was a Toronto stack, right? Toronto would, I mean, really the combination was mostly Rays Jays for the most part, but he was a Toronto stack. But he also had Turnbull. So here we have Giant Squid that almost got there with the Turnbull no-hitter, the Toronto stack with, I mean, Toronto did pretty well. Odor and Andujar as two-man in the Zunino. You pretty much needed Zunino. The 2 home runs at the catcher position. Ian NJ 300 right here. Tampa stack with Brett Phillips. Ohtani, just any second baseman pretty much. Freeman, who had a home run. Wheeler Snell. Nerdy Tenor over here. Toronto, this looks like a Toronto. This is all over the place. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is not even a stack. This Nerdy Tenor is just whatever. Dalton Varsho at nothing up over here. Snell, Turnbull, and a 3-man Toronto, and then a bunch of crap. So I don't know what he was doing. Okay. Jay Blake the King, Wheeler, Turnbull, and a 5-3 Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. The Philly didn't really get there as much, and he had Arozarena instead of Phillips. It was 5 times his owned. And Brendan Lowe wasn't necessary in that stack either. So it's not like even like the full stack was even necessary, but it was the best performing stack. Forsaken's other lineup down here in 10th was an Oakland stack. An Oakland. This is with Turnbull. Okay, that's how this got to 10th place. Laureano had a double dong, right? So there you go. But everything else was kind of, I mean, no Zunino, and you ain't getting there. Giant Squid down over here, still another Toronto stack. 2 Tampa Bay and a VR home run with Turnbull, right? You needed Phillips in your Ray stack, or you needed Turnbull and then something else. Yesterday, but it's one of those days. It's a 14-game slate, and the chalk team hits, and then that's just the way it goes, right? On FanDuel, on my lineups, I still played Rays, but I played way less of them, and I barely played Meadows other than in Rays stacks, because Meadows was, look, 27% owned on a 14-game slate. Of course, he's underpriced. He should be 4,800, not 3,800. Still, it's a hitter. So on FanDuel, let's take a look at this ownership, because I can't relate to DraftKings because I played on FanDuel. But yesterday I played a lot of Toronto. I played a lot of Boston. Boston didn't get there, right? Xander and JD Martinez, they were underowned on FanDuel. They were underowned. Toronto was owned on FanDuel. The Rays and Jays were chalky. I mean, the Rays were chalky for sure, but the Jays were all double-digit owned. Other than Danny Jansen, he was like 3%. He was in my best lineup, but that didn't get there. Who else was? Let me take a look at my Philly, the Mets, the Tigers. Yeah, I played a little bit of the Tigers. The Yankees. I played more of the Yankees on FanDuel. I think the Yankees were underowned on FanDuel because of the Rays ownership. So playing Judge, playing Odor, playing who else? Urshela, LeMahieu. Typically, the Yankees are overowned on FanDuel, but yesterday they were a little bit underowned for their potential. But sometimes, hey, it's a 14-game slate. Typically, you say a 14-game slate. How do you play the chalk? How do you build so many chalk lineups with 17% owned, stacks in general? When look, it drops off dramatically. I mean, from a stack perspective, you have some guys that are 17, 15, 12. Because even Toronto wasn't like even close. I mean, Teoscar was 9. Bichette was 10. Guerrero was 8. So, yeah, I mean, they were like the second most owned stack. But it's like it drops off and you get tons of these like 5, 4, 4%, 5%, 3%. On a 14-game slate, typically, there's 28 teams that could get there. Now, yeah, Tampa Bay had the highest winning percentage. But was it this high? Probably not. Probably not. So, like, I'll do this every time. I have no problem. If you X'd out the Rays completely, I don't think you did anything wrong yesterday. And if you played them, I don't think you did anything wrong. You can still make lineups with them. You don't have to X them out. I would not have played Austin Meadows as a one-off, though. But, I mean, you would have got burned, right? I mean, you would have gotten burned anyway when he hit that 3-run home run. I'm like, oh, what, do they just know when they're chalk? Aaron Judge does that also. Aaron Judge, 38%. First at bat. Bomb. Like, thanks. And it doesn't mean I have none of them. It's just that I don't have much. But sometimes it happens. Sometimes, if you're a contrarian player, you did not do well yesterday. Okay? The chalk pitcher combination got there, and the chalk stack, and the chalk one-off. So if you played one lineup and it didn't have any of them, and you lost, okay, fine. That's baseball. That's DFS. We move on to the next day. That's just what happens. Michael Dompier asked strategy question on Slate IQ. Per Slate IQ last night, RG simulations had most likely winning pitcher combo was stud scrub. You can't go by that. Everything on Slate IQ, which is a premium tool on RotoGrinders, Michael, everything on Slate IQ is going to look the same other than the team stacks. Everything's going to look the same, depending on slate size. So if you pull up a Slate IQ for a 4 or 5 game slate, it'll give you virtually the same numbers as any other 4 or 5 game slate. If it's a 12, 14 game slate, it's going to, all of those other pitcher combinations, stack combinations, chalk line, all that other stuff is going to look the same regardless of who's on the slate. It's going to look that way no matter what. So other than the team stacking section. So I don't even care about anything else other than the team stacking section. And the most likely winning pitching combination in general is typically stud scrub on DraftKings. Typically. Remember, this is a simulation based on Results DB, the database we have of all the DraftKings slates. And that's primarily because a stud pitcher could put up a very high ceiling, 40 points. And one of the scrub pitchers, one of the 6K, 7K level pitchers, could have a 30-point game, 25-point, 30-point game. You combine that, and now you're able to pay up for bats that have a 10-run ceiling. So that tends to be, on most large slates, the way to go from a construction perspective, taking nothing else into account. But remember, there are plenty of slates in the database that don't have $2,600 hitters that shouldn't be there, right? That don't have pitchers that even an 80, like Snell probably should have been 1,000 more. DraftKings pricing used to be much tighter than it is now. So when it's tight, maybe that makes much more sense. Just like when the pricing is tight, it's very hard to make double stud lineups. So the only way to make double stud lineups is by playing like garbage vomit stacks. And that's what I used to do in the past. But now you could make double stud lineups without using a vomit stack. So then what's the purpose of the vomit stacks now? So you got to involve unless when DraftKings starts tightening their pricing, starts raising that salary floor on the bottom. Like a lot of the stuff that, would have won in simulations 3 years ago doesn't necessarily apply now. It's kind of hard to build a stud scrub pitching lineup and then still play like Austin Meadows. I mean, like you're leaving money on the table. Like if you played Turnbull, right? If you played Snell and Turnbull, played Wheeler and Turnbull, and Meadows. It's like, well, you're playing the Braves, I guess. I mean, you're playing some expensive stack because you could afford anything you want at that point. Well, because there are batters that are under 3K that are just too cheap. That shouldn't be $2,400 batters, and now we have tons of them. It used to be every once in a while, right? Oh, Josh Van Meter's in the lineup and he's 2,200. Oh, okay, right, and it's like one hitter on the slate. It's like, oh, okay, they mispriced. Justin Upton is back from injury. He's 2,600, and eventually he gets back up to 3,800. And it's like there's one guy or two guys, or maybe it's the eighth hitter on the Pirates and no one cares, right? Something like that. 2,200 and no one cares. But now we're seeing. I mean, we could take a look at today's slate. If I just go by bat projections and go to the hitter and just go to point per dollar, which will give me those cheapies, right? Yoshi's projected to be in the lineup for the Dodgers at 2,200. Taylor Ward leading off for the Angels at 2,500. Mazzara against Gilbert batting fifth, 2,400. Robles is always cheap, right? Josh Bell is 3,500. Tim LaCastro batting second against Kershaw. Not saying you'd necessarily play him against Kershaw, but he's only 2,300. Miggy's 2,400 batting cleanup. Starlin Castro and Kiki Hernandez are 3,300 each when they probably should be 4,000. Upton's under 3K. Dylan Moore batting fifth against Skubal, 2,700. Pujols, say whatever you want, but he still has power, 2,500. I don't barely know who Khalil Lee is, but he's min price. Kyle Lewis, Avisel Garcia, they're 3,200. You could build. I mean, you have so many of these types of guys. In the past, like that, there would be like three guys like that. Be like, and it's not even the greatest. You'd be like, I Nomar Mazzara, I guess, right? It would be something like that. But now you have way too many options, and that means you could build higher price pitcher lineups. You could build either you're using these guys as a one-off or you're using it as part of a stack, which then allows you to pay up for another one-off. Or, I mean, it gives less of a need. I mean, obviously you could just avoid a lot of these guys in general, but I mean, there's just so many that you could. Okay, none of these guys are going to be that owned. I mean, Meadows yesterday, maybe Taylor Ward today. Is that going to happen today? I don't know. Like when it used to be just like one of these guys, it's like, okay, that guy's going to be 30% owned because he's the salary saver, and that's it. Now like across the board, like this whole section is going to be, 60% owned in total, but it's all going to go to different guys, go to different people here, right? But that it makes the pitching ownership go up. Like Logan Gilbert, for instance, on today's slate, 4,700 on DraftKings facing Detroit. Okay, he didn't have the best start, but didn't have the worst start. He gave up 2 home runs, but he didn't walk anyone, and he struck out 5 against Cleveland. And he's going to pitch, and it's not like he's going to pitch 50 pitches. He's a rookie. I don't know if he goes 100, but he's a starting pitcher. He's 4,700 against the Tigers. And he's almost unusable. Right? Let's say you play Kershaw, the highest priced pitcher, and Gilbert, and then just let's see what shows up. You get a Washington stack, Yelich, Soto, Turner. Look, you're leaving 300 on the table, and you're getting Kiki Hernandez, Zunino. You're getting a Washington stack right now. But you're paying Yelich is here. He's 4,600. Like look how many lineups I could probably X out Washington and still get another. I could play any stack I want. Kershaw, Gilbert. But take a look at this lineup. It has Soto, it has Yelich, it has Turner as like pay-ups. Now, let's say I take out Gilbert, and instead of playing let's say I play Flaherty, Kershaw, or something. Okay? I'm still kind of getting, now I can't get Soto and no Yelich, but the lineup doesn't look that bad, right? Kyle Lewis, Upton, Narvaez at catcher. Okay, I mean, this still has power in it. Still, you have Kiki here as a salary saver. So you basically you're giving up Soto and Yelich, which is, I mean, that's a lot to give up. But it's not like you're getting garbage guys. Kyle Lewis could hit a home run, and Upton could hit a home run, and Narvaez could hit a home run. These aren't slap hitters or anything. And look, you're paying up like practically twice. And if you pay down, like let's say you play a lineup like Gilbert and Ohtani, and Ohtani isn't even that cheap. He's 7,400. He's cheaper. Or let's say you play Tarek Skubal. Now you wouldn't play them against each other, but let's see. Ohtani. You put Ohtani there. You press it. I mean, you're playing up everywhere. I mean, you're playing Jose Ramirez at 6,200 at third base. You're probably overpaying for Gomes. He's in your Washington stack. You have Yelich and Soto. It's like, so how do you pay down twice? It's kind of hard to do because like just the pricing of the bats are such that you don't even need to. So people are looking for these different roster constructions. And me and Eric Beinford talked about it on the Theory of DFS podcast. If you want to subscribe to that on iTunes, just talking about how the pricing on DraftKings is leading to very similar roster constructions. And if you use an optimizer like Lineup HQ, it's gonna optimize for obviously the median fantasy points because that's what it does. But baseball isn't a game of medians; it's a game of ceilings. Medians don't. I mean, people don't have normal distributions in baseball. Pitchers maybe, but not batters. So if you're going to use Lineup HQ, it's going to lead you towards those types of constructions. It's going to lead you towards jamming in these Yoshi, Taylor, Nomar Mazara, Josh Bell, Tim LaCastro, whoever's here. You're going to get at second base. You're going to get you build 100 lineups, and you get 68 lineups with Kiki Hernandez as a one-off second baseman, not even a Boston stack, a one-off second baseman. And then these guys are going to be overowned like that. So you basically you have to try to construct against that. Because those types of lineups are going to be overowned. Now, yesterday got there. Yesterday got there no matter what, right? Right? If you just jammed in the chalk, you got there. They would have gotten there. But it's much harder to win that way. But that's what I'm seeing. That's what I do every day when I'm building lineups, depending on the site that I'm playing. Like today, I'm playing on FanDuel again until DraftKings has I don't want to pay for $18 an entry or into the 50K GPP. I mean, the payout structure on DraftKings is better than FanDuel, but not that much better. FanDuel's horrible. But if it's $4 or $5 an entry into that, okay, fine. I'll play a bunch of lineups. $18 an entry. I ain't playing $2,000 worth of GPP entries. Not to that type of contest. I'd rather just play like 4 entries into the 254 max or the 555 or something like that if I'm going to do that. Let's go through the YouTube chat. Dan Janning asks, do you think DraftKings will eventually change how they do the payout structure for MLB contests? Because right now they suck. No. As long as it fills, it'll continue. That's essentially what it is. For 5 years, I've been saying flatter payouts. Then they do flatter payouts, and then people don't want to play them. They don't fill. Because people are stupid. People are dumb. People look at the first place prize, and that's it. 50,000 at first, I'm in. They don't realize sixth place is $1,000. Right? Unsustainable payout structures. Where essentially becomes, if you don't get in the top 5, top 3, you're losing in the long run. But then you make it flatter. You go, okay, let's make it 20 to first, and 15 to second, and 12.5 to third, and 10,000 to fourth, and then it doesn't fill. Oh, 20,000 to first. Oh, I'll sit it out. 100,000 to first. That fills immediately. Because people are stupid. So they're not, I can't blame the company. Whatever fills and makes them more money. They're a company. What else are they going to do? And anytime they try anything differently, they lower it, then they flatten it. It doesn't, they make less. So we could say all we want that we would rather have a flatter payout structure, but your wallet speaks for itself. Chandler Cannon, as long as your lineups are constructed the way you want, there's really no reason to use minimum salary at all because lineup HQ uses as much as it can anyway because better projected players tend to be obviously more expensive. Yes. It also depends on the stack constructions that you're making. So remember, like if you're trying to get like 10% of one team and 10% of another team and 10%, like let's say on today's slate, you wanted to play a 5-3 lineup. Let's do that. You wanted to play a 5-3 lineup of Detroit and Pittsburgh. Like just use the two extreme examples. Like your minimum salary, you're going to be leaving a ton of money on the table. I mean, let's build that lineup. I mean, can we put the salary all the way down to whatever? New players, 100 lineups. Let's build Pittsburgh and Detroit, which are like the two like cheapest teams. I'm not saying that they're going to be great lineups, but let's say you wanted a combination of that, and you wanted to build 5-3. I mean, you're gonna have some of these lineups are going to be. I mean, how do you spend any of your money? So I'm going to just stop it here. Right, 46.5. That's the highest projected lineup. 46.5. You're leaving 3,500 on the table, and you're playing Scherzer and Kershaw together. So you're playing the two most expensive pitchers, and you still have to leave 3,500 on the table just to get this combination. So if you're using lineup HQ and you're trying to make weird combinations like that, you need to lower the minimum salary. You're not going to get them. What you're going to do is you're going to start complaining. Lineup HQ is broken. I'm not getting enough of the Pirates or the Tigers, and I'm not getting them together because you probably have the min salary set at like 49,000 or something. If you want these combos, now obviously these lineups don't project that well, right? I mean, you're playing 5-3 Pirates, Tigers, but what a lot of people do is they go into lineup HQ, they build 5-3s, which gives no room for leeway. There's no one-offs or anything, and they go, and let's say they like how many teams are on this slate? Let's say I want a little bit of everyone, right? They do something like this. What do we get? 8. No, let's go 6. So how many teams are on this slate? Okay. 5, 4, right? They want a little bit of everything, right? We're going to just do a little bit of everything. I want a little bit of everything. 4% of everyone, right? I'm not saying you should do this. But now it's going to try to make all these combinations, and without a minimum, it can't make a lot of it. If you set the minimum here to like 49.5, like you'll even though it says 4%, you ain't getting the Pirates Tigers combination. You ain't getting that, right? So you do this, you build 100 lineups. Let's see what happens. It's going to try to build what 4 lineups of each and try to intermix them as much as possible. Let's see. Let's see what comes out. Right? Typically, you're not playing every stack exactly equal and every other stack as a secondary in a 5-3 exactly equal. Let's see what happens. But we'll see that certain combinations are just not going to be made. And definitely, if you leave the minimum salary, if you put the minimum salary up to 49.5 or something, like you're going to be like, why can't I get any Tigers? Because it's just they can't spend the money. Let's see. YouTube chat time. Daniel Hutchings makes a good point. I think the people who like the high variance, high payout structures are also likely to have worse lineups. So that's a trade-off. I don't know. To me, it seems like if you're the type of person that's not playing 100 lineups, right? You're the type of person that's going to build one lineup or three lineups or five lineups or something and play it in the large field stuff. So let's say it's a $10 entry, right? And you're going to play one lineup. That's $10. Three lineups, $30, $50, five entries, maybe. If you're a casual, average, whatever. If it's 20,000 to first place, like that's great. Am I gonna significantly feel different winning 20,000 than I would winning 50,000? Emotionally. Like then, oh, I'm gonna play $30 worth of lineups to try to win 20 grand. Like to me, 20 grand and 50 grand, what would be what's the big difference? Still a lot of money for a little bit of amount of money. And what's the difference between 50,000 and 100,000? It's still you're spending $40. That's what I don't understand. I mean, that's me. If you're playing a lot of money, okay, then maybe I get it. But I mean, if you're playing just a little, I'm going to play an $8 lineup to try to win 20,000. It sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But someone like that is going to be like, $8 to win 50,000, I'll do that. But $8 to win 20,000, just not enough for me. Like I just don't see the difference between the two. So let's see what it comes up with here. So I look at the combo summary right here at 5-3. Oh, we get a decent amount of combos. We get a lot of Pittsburgh, Washington combinations. It actually gives you a decent amount of combos. We look at the salary, low to high. In order, look, 42.5. Look at that. Left 7,500 on the table in order to give you Flaherty Gilbert combination with the Royals stack and the A's. Right? He was 43.4 with the Yankees. And the Yankees are pretty expensive, but has Logan Gilbert in here. Yankees Rangers. There's another Yankees Rangers, 44.5. Mariners Mets, 45.2. Like, look how many lineups leave tons of money on the table in order to even get these combinations. There's an Orioles stack leaving 2,100. Morton Flaherty, Orioles, and three Cardinals. Now, if you take a look at the median projection of these lineups, like the top one here is 120.78. Washington, Seattle, Morton Flaherty. The bat projections as of 10:34 a.m. 120 is the highest, 86 is the lowest. So, like, maybe you're not playing these lineups, right? Playing 3-man Marlins, 5-man Diamondbacks against Kershaw. I mean, you can, but probably not. But this is what happens when you try to get a little bit of everything. Is it going to try to pair together as many of these with as many of the other ones? And these lineups project poorly. The ownership on this lineup is going to be low as hell, but it's also like it's very, very, very low win probability. You probably look at some of these and you go, maybe not. Right? Braves, Tigers, Ohtani, Flaherty. Like, even this isn't that bad. Ozuna, Swanson, Albies. Like, it's hard to play the Tigers. You're not playing like bad Tigers. You're playing Grossman, Candelario, Badu. Yeah, but here, look at this. Like, then you get this: the Marlins against Flaherty and the Pirates. Like, just some of these lineups, it's like, well, if you want that combination, fine, but you need to drop your min salary. Here's a 50,000 lineup. That's not all that great projected, but still, we're projected Tellers is in the lineup. Means Morton, A stack, Tellers, Bichette, Hernandez. Now, this is with the 5-3. If we move this to 5-2-1, we'd see these gaps close up. Like, we wouldn't see these lineups as much because it's not locking in all of the spots to those combinations. And this is obviously, we're doing this test as if you're playing like every stack on the slate, which you're not. And you're playing them evenly. So let's say we go to 5-2. See, when you go to 5-2, that one-off now, instead of in this lineup, right? We'd look at like that weird lineup, right? You take a look, you're leaving 3,000 on the table, and you're playing Magnus Sierra at 2,600 because you need a third Marlin. But Magnus Sierra, now you could, with a 5-2-1, this, instead of playing Sierra, you're playing Juan Soto, right? You're playing Bryce Harper. You're playing, well, Trout's out. You're playing a high price hitter, a good hitter, Judge, like that, and that'll raise the projection. So let's build 100 lineups with 5-2 like this. We're less likely to see these lineups that are low projected like this. This is cause and effect. Like just think logically in your head. This isn't, you don't need to make some big math problem in order to figure out, like, if I do this, what should happen? What logically should happen? Based on the projections we have, obviously, we're jamming in a lot of nationals. Kiki Hernandez. But remember, these are all for 5-3s. And it's trying to get in as many people as possible. Once we open it up to 5-2-1, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of Starlin Castro one-offs, Josh Bell one-offs, Kiki Hernandez one-offs, Taylor Ward one-offs. Like, those guys are going to start going to the moon. Because they have great point per dollar value as a median. Not necessarily the ceiling worth their ownership. Chandler Cadden asks, do you tend to research with 5X or all stacks? Oh, all 5-man on DraftKings. Typically, I'm not playing 4-man stacks on DraftKings. Typically, it's 5-man. When it's a smaller slate, then you look into 4-3s. You look at some of the smaller stuff. Let's see. Come on, build these lineups. Yeah, it's going to take a while because I'm trying to get 4%, 4%, 4%. I'm telling it to, like, try to do everything. You would not build this way. This is, yes. I know I tend to play a very diversified set of lineups with a bunch of stacks. But I'm not playing every team. I'm not trying to do this. I want 4% of everyone. Like, I don't do this. We're going to make sure every team goes with every other team. And then you can't lose. You can't possibly lose. No, of course you can't. More likely to lose, actually. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Yeah, here we go. Josh Bell, Juan Soto, Kiki Hernandez, Starlin Castro, right? We're getting a lot of them as one-offs, right? So we have the top projected lineup with Zunino one-off at catcher, 121.12. So what's the lowest projected lineup out of 100? 97. Okay, we're getting rid of those 88s and whatever. So the lowest projected lineup is Scherzer, is double stud, Pirates 5-man, Trey Turner one-off, and then you have Hedges and Hernandez as the 2-man. But with the 5-2-1, you get the Trey Turner here, rather than what, Ahmed Rosario or whoever shortstop for the Indians, which will put, and this is still only spending 46.3. Here's a Diamondbacks stack with Stallings and Reynolds, but now you have Juan Soto as the one-off, right? So you get a lot of Juan Soto one-offs. You have access to have a better hitter rather than force that third guy, unless you're willing to play these types of lineups. Now, when you do 5X, 5-1-1-1, you give yourself even more options. So you're less likely to even have, like, here's the lowest projected lineup, 92, 97.12. And it leaves a ton of money on the table also, right? Not many under 100. So let's go now to 5X. And 5x means 5 and doesn't mean it has to be 1-1-1. It doesn't prevent it from being a 3-man. It's just whatever it is. So it's 1-1-1. It could be 2. It could be 3. It could be whatever. There's no restriction on the teams. So if I tried doing this now with the 5x, most likely I'm not going to have those types of lineups. Because what's going to happen here, we take a look at the lowest projected lineup, switches a pirate around. So, another pirate is in a catcher. Stallings is here, and now you're paying up for Soto or whoever. So I'm going to build 100 lineups that are 5x now. Now this is not research. This is not what I would do. I'm just showing you the functionality of lineup HQ and why the logical differences between the stack types. These are things that people make mistakes with when they use optimizers. Oh, I'm going to play 100% 5-3 and I want 12% of this and 8% of that or whatever. And then they look and they're like, how come a third of my lineups are garbage? It's like, well, you garbage in, garbage out. You told it that's what you wanted. Or they have such constrictions on it that they're not even getting the combos that they want to get. Oh, well, I want 12% of this and 12% of that, but they're never together. It's like, well, there's some type of mathematically can't do it. Okay, so I built with 5x now, and now we're getting even more Soto one-offs, Kiki Hernandez one-offs, Starlin Castro one-offs, Zunino one-offs, Yelich one-offs, right? So we go to low fantasy points. Look, 102, right? Now you don't even have any that are under 100. Because the lowest lineup is right now Kershaw Flaherty with a Braves 5-man, and then it's just jamming in cheap guys, right? Jose Rojas, Kelvin Gutierrez, and Nomar Mazara. You're going to see this a lot, this type of lineup, where it's jamming in Taylor Ward, Zunino, right? If we go to the higher projected ones, it's just Luis Torres, Kiki Hernandez, Taylor Ward, Kiki Hernandez, Justin Upton, Kiki Hernandez, Christian Yelich. Right? I mean, look, you're getting a plenty of Gutierrez even. So if you just left it like that, you're gonna get a ton. Like Kiki Hernandez may be over-owned on this slate because we take a look at second base. Like it's pretty much punting, right? But then what would happen now if you're like, well, Kiki Hernandez may be over-owned. Let's say I only play 10% of them. Now what happens? Now I'm going to get more of these guys, right? You're going to look and see here. You go, wow, second base is a wasteland today. But do I want Kiki Hernandez as a one-off in like half of my lineups? No. Maybe I don't. Maybe, hey, if he's 3% owned, sure, okay, fine. But most likely he's not going to be. So maybe you cap him at 10%. You go under the field. You use him less as a one-off. Maybe you can even use the old stacks. Like let's say, instead of even putting a percentage there, let's say you don't want to use Kiki Hernandez in anything other than Boston stacks. So you just don't want him as a one-off. You don't only in stacks. So you can do that. See, Kiki Hernandez, you go right there. There you go. You don't have to set an exposure. You don't have to do anything. Just go, I think he's going to be so owned as a one-off. I don't want him. Right? Doesn't mean you have to do that. But let's say you did that. So he's only going to appear in Boston stacks. So whatever exposure, whatever he comes out, if he comes out 8%, that means that those are Boston stuffs, right? So let's build 40 to make it quicker. I don't know how I was going to build 40 lineups with 4% of whatever. Makes it even harder. But we'll see here that your Kiki Hernandez exposure is going to go way down. Like, where is he? Where'd he go? He's in one lineup, right? He's in the one Boston stack. So what's going on at second base then? Well, now you're getting all the Dylan Moore. Oh, now you're getting all the Dylan Moore. You're like, I don't want all the Dylan Moore, right? So you put him at 10%. You build again. Let's see what happens. You probably one of these other guys rises to the top, right? Whoever has the better point per dollar projection is just going to shoot through the roof, right? There we built 40. Let's go to second base now. Now we're just getting a lot more Boston stacks. Now it's you know what? To Lamar, I'm just gonna give you more Boston stacks. Right? So the cause and effect. I'm showing the cause and effect. Do you decide to not play Kiki Hernandez as the one? No, that's up to you. But if you do decide, like I'm showing you what happens when you do certain things. So many people press this build button and they don't look at anything and they just, the optimizer told me, right? Right? That's what they do. They build a bunch of lineups and they enter it and they go, oh, why do I have 23% home run to bias? Optimizer told me. Like, no, you told it. You told it. Right? Mathematically, you told it. If you didn't want that, you should intervene in some way and know that when you intervene, what will now happen because of that intervenement? Right? It's like at the arcade with the hedgehogs or whatever. What's the name of that game? The ding ding ding. You did knock them in the head. You do one thing and another thing pops up over here. Okay, well if I did this and then so I try to keep water in the thing, like it goes up here, it goes up there. The cause and effect of the things that you do. Oh, well, I don't want to play any of the high price pitchers. Well, then you're not going to get cheap stacks anymore, right? How does it affect roster construction? What you do in a tool like Lineup HQ, which you can get as a premium member of RotoGrinders. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Premium single sport or Caldwell, which is all the sports, right? NHL, playoffs, NBA, right? We got that. We got golf, MMA. We've got tons of stuff. Samuel Johnson, how many hours do you usually spend on an MLB slate like today running everything? 20 minutes? I don't spend much time. I'm not even going to start building. I will not even start building lineups until all the lineups are even in. 6. I mean, what? Today's slate's at what? 7. I won't start building lineups until what? 6, 6:20, 6:4, something like that. I mean, obviously, I look at I'm okay in the morning, like what I do on this show. I still look at okay, who seems to be projected? Well, what's the overview of the slate? Oh, okay. It looks. What's the weather going to be like in Wrigley? Is the wind blowing out? Maybe. Like that type of stuff. Then, other than that, I don't look at anything until like 6 o'clock. I see the lineups come out and go, okay, that guy's not in the lineup. Oh, okay. Taylor Ward's batting 8th, not 1st. Okay, obviously his projection is going to go down. Like stuff like that. But I ain't building anything an hour before lock. Most of the time, I'm not even setting stacks or anything until like 15 minutes before lock. And doing all these iterations, whatever, I can do this in 10 minutes. Jason D asks, with all the cheap point per dollar players, would you consider lineups excluding all of those players and instead going totally balanced or plus EV lineups possible with those restrictions? It could be. There's no set rules. Oh, every day I'm going to go in and X those guys out. No, you can still play those guys. Just understand that the higher point per dollar value, it's just it's a median. So they don't make them, they're not the best plays. They're the best plays for median. And they tend to go over-owned. And the less of them they are, the more condensed the ownership gets. So like on a slate like today, maybe none of those cheapies gets double-digit ownership. And it's like, okay, well, then you can play any of them. No one's over-owned. Like Kiki Hernandez today may be over-owned because he's second base eligible, and it looks like second baseman is kind of a wasteland. Can you X him out and play? So yeah, you can. Or you could just be cognizant of the lineups that you're playing. That's it. People want these rules of like, well, if I just did this and just ran it and did that every day, like it doesn't work that way. Maybe Kiki Hernandez only ends up being 16% owned instead of 42% owned. Is he efficiently owned? Maybe 16 is too low owned. He's chalky, but he's still under owned. And maybe you should be playing him as a one-off more than that. Really all depends on what other people are going to do. Right. Michael Dompier says, anecdote, my internet went out at noon and I had 150 lineups. My internet came back on at 6:50 p.m. Based primarily on this 11 a.m. show, I easily made 150 lineups in 15 minutes. Right, exactly. That's exactly what I did. I played 150 lineups on FanDuel yesterday. Took me, what, 10 minutes to do? To the point in which, okay, these are lineups that I made some choices. I made some, I looked at who am I playing more of and less of and whatever. Make a couple of these, maybe 5 or 6 build iterations. I'm good. Upload. Done. Done. Doesn't take that long. Really doesn't. Once you decide what it is you want to do, there's only so many choices. I'm not going through going, should I play this guy or this guy? I'm never doing that. Should I play this X versus Y 2v2s? I don't, DFS isn't played that way. Should I play this? I have projections. Like what I don't need to make player comparisons. It's more of the fact of I'm devising a strategy, going over on this under. I'm making more lineups like this, less lineups like that. This guy's going to be over-owned. This guy's going to be under-owned. This construction is going to be over-owned. This construction is going to be under-owned, and then making appropriate lineups based on that. And that's it. Build plus EV lineups. The Rays are chalk. How do I play him? Well, I don't want to X out Meadows. He's the best projected batter. But maybe if he's going to be 30% owned on a 14-game slate, maybe I shouldn't have him in half my lineups. Maybe I have a cleaner path to first place with him failing. But I can still play him in lineups that are totally contrarian. Meadows as a one-off in a weird Tigers lineup. Okay, well, if the Tigers went off yesterday, I would be glad that I had Meadows 27 points in it, rather than X him out completely. Chad looked at it. When you start building, do you repeatedly refresh with projections, or do you do it once before final build, or not at all? Well, the projections aren't going to change that much once pretty much all the lineups are in. That's why I don't build until half an hour before lock. You need the lineups in. Yes, if Taylor Ward leads off versus bats 8th, it's going to affect his projection. I'm going to need that Angels lineup. That's going to matter. But I'm not building at 3 o'clock. With half most of the lineups not in. What's the point? It may not stay that way. The whole dynamic may change. Who knows? That's why. I do the same thing in NBA. Look at NBA. Projections can change like it is 2 minutes before lock. So, some guys in, some guys out, this guy's sitting. Who knows? How are you building lineups at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I don't know how you do that. You're building with less information than what you'd have 5 hours from now. I want the most amount of information that I can before making decisions. Hence why do you think I don't go over stuff that much for today's slate on this show? We have no lineups. We can look at, okay, this is what's predicted lineups, right? This is what it looks like. It looks like this is what the order may be today. Could be, possibly. One thing changes, and then you could throw away the entire show. That's why we talk about strategy, tools. Answer your questions. Right? Ownership changes, right? Chandler County says owner. Right. Oh, this guy's not in. Well, that takes away all this ownership. Where does it go? Where is it going? We don't know. Right? You either have to figure that out yourself, or you have ownership projections, which we do have at RotoGrinders. Click on the link in the description to get $10 off your first month. Hit that, hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door for keeping the apple juice cold this morning. Yeah, pretty cold. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders live later today. Tomorrow, the show will not be on. We're doing. I think there'll be something. I think at 11:30 we're doing a free crunch time or grinders something. Roth is on tomorrow on YouTube, so it was 11:30 tomorrow, I believe, because we have an early slate. I think we have like a 4-game early slate tomorrow for MLB. That's like 12:30 or something. So I'll be on. It'll be me, Grant, and Roth. And that'll be tomorrow. So at 11, I believe 11. That's what it says on the schedule, at least 11:30 tomorrow, and then Friday we'll be back to normal because we have these Thursday like weird. Anytime there's a weird early slate, this show gets preemptive. But I'm on the show that gets preempted, right? So I'll still be with you. I'll still be with you as I always am, Monday through Friday, most Monday through Fridays at 11 o'clock Eastern. For the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.